around and wait for permission. I'm going to tell the people of America that you don't need to sit around and wait for anyone's permission to go out and tell the radical left that they don't have permission to own America's streets, to take over America's communities, and to cause havoc and destruction. So Walkaway started doing what we call Rescue America rallies from coast to coast. We went to blue cities and blue states. And we were, it was actually quite amazing. We did this in 19 cities and states around the country. And so after we got done on this amazing tour, I mean, it was really incredible. We decided to have this sort of respite in Florida. We got an Airbnb, and I brought my team and a lot of our speakers out there. Mikey Harlow was on that tour. Say hi, Mikey. Mikey's up. Mikey went to 19 cities with me as well to try to rescue America. And so we all went to Florida. We were having an election night viewing party at an Airbnb. I have this really bad habit of having these election parties that don't go well. In 2016, I was in tears when Hillary Clinton didn't get elected, and then in 2020... I'm not endorsing anybody in 2020. I'm just keeping my mouth shut. Really, I am. And I was in tears in 2020 for that election party. But so we were all there, and as my talk tonight goes on, we'll definitely get into the gaslighting of the media and where we are right now with this January 6th committee and the whole narrative surrounding January 6th. But one of the things I'll mention right now that bothers me so tremendously is this gaslighting that keeps happening through this January 6th committee and the media, where they're basically implying that nobody would have ever gotten the idea that anything was wrong with the election until Donald Trump told us that. Like, we were all just sitting around going, shit, I guess we'll have to do better next time. And then we went, what? Trump said the election was stolen? Like, it was literally on November 4th, 2020. I was sitting there in the Airbnb. Go back and check my tweets. It was probably at like 6, 7, 8 p.m. I tweeted out, what the hell is going on with Fox News? Because that would have been around the time that they called Arizona after 2 votes came in. And then they wouldn't call Texas when there were like 2 votes not counted. And that just went on for hours and hours and hours. So immediately it was pretty clear that something weird was going on with the, yes, sweetie?
It was
November 3rd. Sorry, November 3rd. Thank you. Woo! So,
but it was called on November 4th. Right.
All right, let's focus. Let's all focus. It's not interactive theater. All right. So, it was in early November. Let's all agree it was early November. Okay, so the next day, I was deeply upset. And there was a group of, I hate this term, but conservative influencers who were talking basically in a private chat on Twitter and saying, we've got to do something about this. Like, this can't be allowed to stand. Clearly something weird is going on. And so we basically divided up and we went to swing states around the countries and we held rallies, encouraging basically people to keep their spirits up. Don't, if you're feeling like something's wrong, don't let this go. Let's make sure that your state legislatures hear your concerns. We want an audit. We want an audit of the vote. And because I went out and I lent my voice to this cause, and this went on, as you guys know, for weeks and weeks and weeks after November 3rd, then by January, first of all, there was a big event in DC in November, there was one in December, and then January 6th was the big day. President Trump said he wanted everyone to come to DC. Be a part of this big event. So somebody had reached out to me, asked me if I wanted to speak at the Capitol on January 6th. As it was explained to me from the very beginning, there would be an event at the Ellipse. President Trump would be speaking. After the event at the Ellipse, we would all march from the Ellipse to the Capitol. There would be another permitted event at the Capitol with dozens of people speaking, that I would be one of them. I thought it over for a while because I had already made a promise on national television that I was going to be a poll watcher in Georgia for the Senate runoff elections. And that was really important to me because I know a lot of people were feeling like Republicans were getting rolled over at at the election polls. And I had made a big deal about how, the American people could sleep easy because, if they came at me in Georgia with tried to play the black card, I'd pull the gay card, and we'd have like a whole thing going on there inside the poll. But then after speaking to several people, they told me that they felt that this was important, that I go and be a part of this event, stand up for the American voter, and try to be there for the American people who were getting rolled over. So I went to Washington, D.C. Everything unfolded exactly the way that I had understood that it was. I actually spoke in Freedom Plaza on January 5th. I gave a very fiery speech, which used to be legal to do. Back when it was still legal, or actually that was right around the moment that it stopped being legal. But I think I used terms like, this is a revolution, and we gotta fight for our country, things that will now land you in prison, or at the very least get you an FBI raid at your house. But I gave a very fiery speech, and then on the morning of January 6th, went to the Capitol, went to the Ellipse, listened to President Trump speak. He very clearly told everyone to march peacefully and patriotically over to the Capitol, where we would have another event. And from there, I got my security detail, and we headed toward the Capitol. When I got, about a 15-minute walk away from the Capitol, I started receiving messages in my text messages on my phone from friends and colleagues and people around the country who were at home watching on television, telling me that they were hearing on the news that people were going inside the building. Now, to me, the first thought that I had in my mind was all the number of times that left-wing protesters have gone inside of government buildings to protest, whether it be for Supreme Court nomination hearings, things like that. And usually, they'll go inside, they'll shout out, the whole incident lasts about 5 seconds, somebody will drag them out, and life goes on as if it never happened. And I am somebody who has, like I just said, we threw these events around the country, these Rescue America rallies, and I know how difficult it can be to convince conservatives just to leave their houses and show up for an event and hold a sign. And so I'm thinking to myself, now suddenly conservatives are like going inside the building and it's this whole thing. I was like, this just sounds weird. And I really thought that, I'm picturing in my mind maybe 7, 8, maybe a dozen people. I thought, they're probably going inside, they're going to shout, we want an audit, and somebody's going to drag them out. And honestly, I got a little excited. I thought I want to get there and turn my camera on and record this because I was being told this by people who said they were hearing it on the news. Well, I've had enough tangos with the news to know how accurate their reporting is. And I thought to myself, if something is indeed happening at the Capitol, and if it involves Trump supporters, somebody's going to need to be there to actually accurately capture exactly what's happening, because I know this is not going to be portrayed to the American people with any sort of accuracy. So I continued to approach the Capitol from the east side, and when I got about 2 or 3 blocks away from the building on the east side grounds, I started recording my video on my phone. I was not live streaming, as has been reported in the news, and that might seem like sort of a negligible, sort of, inconsequential detail, but it's not actually, because the media has reported that I went to the Capitol, I committed crimes, and that I live streamed myself committing these crimes. First of all, I've gone to enough large, big-scale rally events and things like this to know that you really can't get a cell signal out when you're in a huge crowd of people like that. So if you want to actually capture footage, the thing to do is just record a video, wait until you have a good signal, edit it, put it out. So that was my goal, but the reason why I say it's of consequence that I was not live streaming is that it's important to remember that I made an intentional choice to upload my video to Twitter. I didn't get caught up in any sort of moment that accidentally got captured on a live stream. I recorded a video and chose 2 hours later to upload that video to Twitter. but we'll get there in just a moment. So I'm entering the East Side Capitol grounds. You'll probably notice I keep saying East Side, East Side, East Side. Here's another detail that's been lost time and time again in the reporting of January 6th, which first of all, let's acknowledge that about 90% of the liberal media, or more, has been dedicated to talking about January 6th, constantly, insurrection, insurrection, the attempt to overthrow the government. It's time that Trump tried to destroy our democracy and sent his violent supporters to overthrow the Capitol, to overthrow the government. Meanwhile, there's been almost complete and total silence from what I consider to be the conservative media. Now, there's a few exceptions. Greg Kelly, Julie Kelly, Tucker Carlson, and they're not the only ones, but they're in a very, very small handful of conservative journalists and reporters who are actually talking about January 6th and making at least an attempt to try to get the truth out about what actually happened on that day. And so, for most people, and understandably, because there aren't a lot of media sources on our side talking about this, you would probably assume that anybody who was at the Capitol on January 6th witnessed window-breaking, violence, struggles with police officers, flashbangs going off, things like this. None of that was going on the east side of the building where I was. None. Zero. None of that whatsoever. As far as I know, and believe it or not, I'm not a January 6th expert. People think I am now. People are like, what are the names of all the people in prison? I don't know. But as far as I know, those things happened exclusively on the west side of the building, the opposite side of the building I was on, and for a very limited period of time. I arrived at about 2:30 p.m., 10 minutes after Congress. Now, I didn't know that at the time. The last member of Congress, which I believe was Mike Pence, cleared the building at 2:20 p.m.